Welcome to Mornings with Matt, personal and professional development training that connects the art of acting with critical life skills and self-mastery. Presented by the Deering Acting Studio.
Man, how's he do that with his head?
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Mornings with Matt. Ladies and gentlemen, we are doing something right over here because we've got a famous man on the show today, Mr. J.R. Cardenas. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. We are so happy to have you. So,
Question number one, how did you do that with your head? Where you went like this? That was super cool.
You know, I used to breakdance when I was little, so I still got it.
Oh, that's tight.
so you've had a performer in you since day one.
I like to think that I started a career in singing at 13 years old. It was a garage band, but I got a taste of popularity, and I just never walked away from that.
So let's talk about where you are right now. You're on a couple successful shows currently. Is that right?
Yeah. So we've got an English show called Sous Vide that's been around for about 13 years. I've been around it for about 9 years. And that's the English show. It's on the Cox Cable Network. So that's a national. It's all over the United States if you're a cable subscriber. And I've also got a Spanish show, which was just more of a trial and error kind of thing. And it took off. It was a Cocinemos con Sazón, which is a cooking show, which is what I've always wanted to be my whole life. And I ended up on TV for some reason. But yeah, that one was great. It's huge in other parts of the world, like Colombia and Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Mexico.
Wow, that's wonderful. And so do you get to be a chef on that show?
I get to be a cook. But some of the people that write in, they actually say, "Hey, chef, how are you?" Which is an honor because that's what I wanted to be my whole life.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You were originally going to go to culinary school, correct?
I did. I came to Phoenix in 1998, and I said, I'm going to go become a chef. I was working at a retirement center. I was doing all the prep cooking, all the desserts and all that stuff. And I loved it. I loved the satisfaction and the people telling me, hey, that's great. That's a great tasting pastry. And when I got here, they said, oh, it's going to be $35,000 to go to school for culinary arts. I'm 18 years old. I come from a broken home. I had no idea it was going to be that expensive. I said, well, I can't afford it. I'm probably just going to go do something else. So I took jobs here and there. And then one day jumped as an intern for a radio station. And no looking back after that. Radio took me into television. Television took me into other stuff.
So let me ask you, how long were you interning with the radio station?
I interned for 6 months. And back in early 1999, 2000, internships were not paid. So I worked for free for 6 months. I would go in during the morning show at 5 in the morning, and then I would stay there basically all day until I had to go to school or to work, which I was a bartender at a restaurant in Mesa, and I was up till 2 in the morning, and then up the next morning at 5 to go learn about the morning show.
Yeah, so you did what you had to do for 6 months, working hard. And this is what's interesting, because this is what today's show is all about, is I believe this with my whole heart. There are no shortcuts. In life, if you want to be successful, you want to go next level, you have to be willing to sacrifice. And whatever reward you're looking for, the sacrifice is going to be equal to that. And this is a great example. So, there are some paid internships out there, and there is also some unpaid internships. And the idea of an internship, I think, is a lot of people look at the fact that you worked for that company for 6 months. And they think like, wow, you gave away all your free time, and I can't believe you did that. And I look at it and I go, they gave you 6 months of education, and you got the opportunity to be there for 10, 12 hours a day and learn all the ins and outs of the broadcast world. I mean, how awesome. But it's a difference in perspective. And depending on how you look at an opportunity will depend on whether or not you use that opportunity for success. Would you agree with that?
100%. And the cost of me being there for so long and sacrificing all those things made me treasure my radio career so much. I remember, getting moved from the morning show to the afternoon show, and I was devastated. I ended up loving the afternoon show because I worked so hard to become a personality. Then they moved me back to the morning show, and I was devastated from leaving the afternoon show because I treasured my position so much because I worked so hard for it, and it wasn't handed to me. That was the no shortcut benefit of working hard as well.
Yeah, and you said on the sheet here, that's the reason you said yes to being on this show this morning, right? Because you heard me say something similar to that?
I did. I saw you say no shortcuts, and I mean, it hit the nail right in the head for me. The art, no shortcuts. You know, I'm 40 years old. I've been doing this for 20 something years. I feel it's my turn to tell kids, hey, do it this way. It's the long way. It's the harder way, but trust me, you'll treasure it, because my radio career compared to my TV career when I first started was completely different. I didn't treasure my TV career. I thought it was one of those things that it had to come naturally. My ego was out of control, and I had to learn the hard way that was, you know, a great opportunity. And
so
you know, here we are.
So and you're obviously killing it in TV now and doing very well. But I didn't know this, so let me ask you: when you transitioned from radio to TV, did you take some things for granted, perhaps, and like not work as hard as you could have early on, just because you sort of expected things to happen?
You know, the morning show that I was on was a very popular morning show. So jumping into television, the ratings on that show went 276% up. So the popularity of the show was just exploding. And so I knew that, you know, I knew that I had a great opportunity. I just didn't treasure it the way I should have treasured it. And you know, other personal stuff came in, the ego, the fact that everybody was, now they could see me, not just hear my voice. It was a completely different level of popularity and fame. And, you know, again, like I told you, I had to learn the hard way. When I lost my job in Spanish television back in 2006, my thought was, let's see how they do without me. They did great. I mean, they did great. And, you know, a couple years later, they couldn't find the right host, and they canceled the show that I was on. But before then, they did amazing, and I was here trying to figure out what I was going to do the next day. And from there, that's when I jumped into commercial production. I had done commercials in LA. I had done some stuff in California. So I would fly out, and that's where I took my next step to English television. I left Spanish media and went into English TV, and obviously the rest is history. Here we are with the Deering Studio.
So do you think you walked in with a little more of a humble heart moving over to the English television?
Yeah, you know, the difference in audience between both cultures, obviously the Hispanic culture, they treat you like a superstar, whether you're on a local level or a national level. The fame is just, the people are just so, you know, Latinos were very touchy-feely, so they're very close. In the English side, it's like, hey, that's JR, and that's it. It's over.
It's good. Hey, good for you.
you get the occasion. It's like, oh, whoa, dude, it's JR. If they know what you've done and they know about you, they treat you a lot different. But if they see, hey, you're that guy from TV, okay, cool, and that's it. That's where it ends. And it's very different. It's very different, which humbles you. But in English media, we're here to work. We're not here for the fame. We're here to work. The fame comes later. The popularity comes later. You got to work for it. You got to earn it. And I've learned to earn it, and I do cherish it. But you know, I'm in transition. I like to say I'm moving behind the camera now. Even
really?
Though hopefully I still have a lot of years in front of the camera.
Well, I was like blown away to hear you had a grandchild. Is that?
Yeah. So I've got a 23-year-old son.
That's
and,
amazing.
You know, he has a baby, and they're actually asleep in the house. That's why I'm out here in the backyard.
It's also great aesthetically. I mean, it just looks wonderful.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, I like the backyard. Guys, I think we should stop for a second and talk about ego.
I agree.
Because
That's
that's such a huge topic, and it's something that we can probably learn something from JR here. But this idea of the ego, all of us get attacked by that, you know. And I think one of the keys is to remind yourself when you wake up who's really in charge.
Yeah.
You know, and to thank God for today and be grateful for today. You know, my catchphrase is, I'm happy to be alive. People ask me how I am, and I say I'm happy to be alive. And just recently, people think I'm only saying it because of coronavirus, but I'm like, no, I've been saying that for
this
years.
for like 2 years.
Yeah, because you can choose that. You know, you can choose every morning to be grateful just to be awake, you know, and to go and attack the day. So how do you guys feel about the ego? And
Well, it's been a huge struggle for me, as you know. One thing that helped a lot was that book that you sent to me, Ego is the Enemy. I mean,
Yes.
that really, really helped. It's an amazing book that just kind of dives in and really calls you on your stuff. But in different ways, like I have a pride thing. So like I feel that all the time I should be really important, and when I work really hard, I want to see people give me credit for that, you know? And so from a pride point of view, the more you start doing, like you said, JR, the more you're seen, right? So I think there's something really, really important. And you said specifically to talk to young people. So I'd like to speak to young people specifically before you get to that level. So let's say that is your goal, right? You want to get in TV or you want to be in movies or whatever. Like, it's really important right now, I think, at the young part, before you have any notoriety, before you have anybody looking at you, to start really working on what you're saying, Matt, on going like putting God first and saying like, hey, like not me, but you know? And if you can do that really early, then I feel that it would be a little easier. Whereas if you aren't doing that when you don't have that fame already, as soon as it hits you, it's going to be really hard not to fall to it.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. You have any thoughts on this, JR?
You know, I think part of the reason why in my occasion, I'm just going to use my example. I love speaking to young talent because obviously, you see that there is, I did an interview. I've been doing interviews all week. So I did an interview last night and they said, what's the one thing that you'd like to tell kids? There's a talent in knowing you don't have the talent. You know, if you don't have the talent, you've got a great head on your shoulders. But if you have the talent, take it easy, you know, absorb it, learn, be a sponge, and slow down. In my case, I come from, you know, alcoholic parents. We lived in a small trailer. I have 5 brothers. We were always poor. And one day you go on stage and people are screaming your name and yelling and trying to touch you and pictures and blah, blah, blah. It gets to your head pretty quick because your entire life you've been told you're not going to do it. You're not going to make it. Yeah. I remember telling my mom, hey, I was 8 years old and she said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I'm going to be on television. And she said, mijo. That's the correct word, right? Mijo, we're Mexican and we're poor. We don't belong on television. And I always thought I'm going to prove you wrong, Mom. Yeah. I'm going to prove you wrong. When I got to that level, like I told you, I would go on stages and people yelling my name and blah, blah, blah. It got to my head pretty quick and I didn't know how to control it. You know, I worked for an organization that always said, this is the #1 network, #1 network, #1 network. And you start believing you're on the #1 network, so you're #1 and you're indestructible and they can't live without you. So I always tell people, you know, absorb the surroundings, understand where you're at, know your position. When you start getting gray hair like me, then you can go and talk to people and be like, don't be like that, man. Everybody, there's a time and a place for everybody. And one day they're going to let you go. That's kind of the name of the game in this industry, in the television industry. And I wish somebody would have told me that and I wouldn't have learned this the hard way. But yeah, ego is there's good ego and then there's bad ego. Most of the time, the bad ego is what gets you in trouble. The good ego is like, hey, don't treat me like that. You know? Like, let's respect each other. I love myself. I respect myself. Mm-hmm. You're confusing it with a different type of ego. Let's respect each other. Let's start with that, with that end.
Yeah, I love that. I like to think too, that we get rewarded in the light what we do in the dark.
Yeah.
When the lights are off and nobody knows what you're doing, and you're the only one that knows, and that work ethic, that's what gets rewarded when the lights turn on. And so if you're always seeking to be in the lights, you're always seeking to be famous, then probably you won't be. Or even worse, and this is the worst case scenario, is you get famous for the wrong reasons. You know, I mean, really. So you end up, you know, let's just say a young kid gets a quick social media following. Yeah. You know, and they're like, oh, and they start thinking everyone thinks they're great. And the next thing you know, they post the wrong thing. And I mean, that can be devastating to youngsters. So, it's very youngsters.
Those youngsters.
The old chippers on the corner there.
Well, that made me think of something actually that I'd like to jump on real quick.
Sure.
So we were specifically talking about television industry and sort of like film and, but I think this is something that, like you said, with social media and everything, like this goes everywhere. This can totally be anybody. I know it just made me think of an example for me that I dealt with a little while back. I was serving in like youth ministry and doing stuff like that. And JR, I felt like famous in youth ministry, which sounds so weird, but like I got in my own head about youth ministry like you did for the show, like to the point where I'd be like, well, you know, if I left, like they'd be totally out. Like, good luck without me. Like, you got God on your side, for goodness sakes. Like, but seriously, it's so easy to like start getting in your head about that and like make things about the wrong thing.
Yeah,
you know. And so I totally did that, and I did it in something that should have been totally God serving. And so I don't think it's in one area, it's everywhere. So we just have to be so cautious.
Well, I encourage people to listen to their elders and listen to
those gray-haired people.
The book that teaches us some things, which is get down on your knees and serve. The greatest piece of advice I have for any intern, any place, is go clean the toilets. You do the work that other people don't want to do. And then it doesn't matter. You will always be useful. And what's crazy is I gave this advice to a young actress before she was moving away. And I said, wherever you end up, go into a theater and clean their toilets. Go into a place and just be the grunt worker and do it silently. And eventually, the owner of that company, the director of the shows, whatever, is going to go, who's been cleaning the toilets? It's so beautiful in here. And you will get recognized. And so cleaning the toilets is sort of a it's an example here. It could be literal or non-literal. Like, it's not about that. It's about what are you willing to do. And and we talk about all these lessons that are all over the Bible, and they're everywhere for business and for life. And so Jesus says the person who is the lowest among you will be the leader. And then he proves it. He gets down on his knees and he washes everybody's feet. So that idea, that principle in general, is a guarantee for success. And I believe a guarantee for crash and burn is just the desire for fame, period. Like, if that's all you're after, then you may get it and be totally unfulfilled, which is a scary place to think that you might end up.
Yeah, and to touch on that subject, I told you I come from a family where my parents were alcoholics, and I didn't respect my father a lot for his decisions based on alcohol. I like to say he abused alcohol, but I think alcohol abused my father.
Yeah.
And one day I was 16 years old, 15 years old, and I had gone drinking. I'd gone out partying with my friends, and we got drunk and hammered. And he woke me up the next morning at 4 a.m. to go work with him. And he was irrigating, plants, and he was a farmer. And I go with him, and he sees that I'm extremely hungover, and he understands how hangovers feel. So he says, okay, I'm going to need you to water all this. Go ahead and water all this. I'll be right back. I'm going to go to Circle K and get you something for your hangover. He left. I knew he was going to be gone for at least an hour because the nearest Circle K was 25 miles away. And so I see a little tree down the road, and I just get my hair wet, and I go into the tree and I pass out. And I didn't maintain the irrigation the way it was supposed to be, so it overflooded. And I hear my dad cursing up a storm, and he comes back and he tells me, what are you doing? You had one job. What happened? I said, listen, man, one, I'm an American, and two, I'm going to be on TV, dude. I'm not going to be doing this job for the rest of my life. This is your job. And that was one of the very things that I took into consideration now that I'm older and I'm a dad. He said, oh, you're going to be on TV. Okay. Well, in order for you to be the best TV person, you must first be the best irrigation person. And I didn't understand it until I got older.
That's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story. I think for a lot of us, it takes becoming a parent to realize what it is to be a parent. I know when my first son was born, I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it. I immediately felt this crazy love I've never felt before, and this immediate guilt. And I was like, wow, I forgive my dad for anything and everything, and I'll never say another bad word about him forever, because you know what? If throughout any mistakes, he was doing the best he could. And one day I was this child, and he looked at me with love, and then, whether he made mistakes or didn't, completely irrelevant. My job now is to love him, where he is, and ideally live a life that might steer him in a positive direction, because he did a lot for me, And so, and I think as kids, we tend to focus on the negative when it comes to our parents.
Yep.
And we don't give them a lot of slack because we don't know any better. Like a lot of parents can be seen as heroes. They were seen as like superstars. And so as soon as that image is shattered for a kid, it can be very difficult to overcome. So that's a really, really cool story. I love that.
Yeah, I always share it with everybody. And I always tell them, if you're going to be whatever you're going to be after you graduate college, first you got to be the best student. And before that, you got to be the best son. And before that, you got to be the best blah, blah, blah. So there was a slogan that I grew up going up, that I went by growing up called Be the Best. And it was just me writing it on all my schoolwork. Be the best, be the best, be the best, be the best. As I did the best I could and everything, now my term is not famous because I'm trying to control that ego to where I don't feel like I'm famous,
Sure.
So everything I do, I hashtag is not famous.
That's awesome. So, so let me ask you, as a Latino man coming up in business and coming up in the entertainment world, were there specific struggles for you that you had to overcome? Any kind of like major obstacles that you had to like look the other way, turn the other cheek, so to speak, in order to rise to where you are?
I saw struggles, but never because of the language barrier. That's never been an issue for me. I speak both English and Spanish perfectly. I milked it. I took full advantage of it. I mean, yeah. I took the fullest advantage to knowing that I can go and do a commercial for you in English and turn around and immediately do it in Spanish for you.
Right.
So I took full advantage of that. I did see the struggles in learning how to stay neutral. There's many things that, when you get to a certain position, you're going to say something. And when you're at where you're at, you're putting yourself out there for criticism and put downs, and you got to develop thick skin to avoid all that. But at the same time, you don't want to hear it. So you stay as neutral as possible. And over, I've made mistakes where I've made a comment because I'm a human being.
Yeah.
I have my thoughts on politics, on beliefs, on the universe, on UFO. I have all these beliefs. So I just stay neutral. And you know what? You mentioned something about building your character, staying with the person that you are. I found a niche, which was comedy, and it's helped me. I always tell people I've made a career out of my stupidity. The unfortunate situation is people think I'm really that stupid, and they don't understand that it's a character.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the struggles that I always had was trying to stay neutral. I'm very outspoken, because of where I come from.
Yeah.
I've learned to just speak my piece, especially if I feel like I'm being cornered. And it's gotten me in a lot of trouble. It has. There's things that I've said that I shouldn't have said. There's things that I've done that I shouldn't have done. And you learn in it. And the best way I could tell you, Matt, that I learned, guys, is money. It hurt my pocket, and it caught my attention immediately.
Right.
And I've had to apologize publicly. I've done it over and over, but I'm still learning. I'm going to make mistakes.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that idea of you have certain beliefs, certain perspectives on things, and because now it feels like there's also a new criticism of being neutral in general. Because I was told by a mentor recently, basically, to be careful on this show. Because we talk about God a lot. We talk about our connection to faith, etc. And, we're going to be celebrated for that on one end of the aisle, and we're going to be condemned on the other. And I understand that. And so it can be difficult for me to just stay neutral and not sometimes speak a truth when I know it's to be true. And I wonder where the line is when it comes to being a public personality, of where you need to really put your foot in the ground and where it's okay to be quiet.
There's to me, I believe in God. My family, we're Christians. I grew up a Catholic boy, but I've also gotten a chance to travel in many places. I was in Cambodia. I met a Buddhist man. He was there to bless the organization that we were going to be working for when I was shooting a show up there. And he came up to me and in perfect English tells me, "Christian?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Buddhist?" And I said, "Very nice to meet you." And he says, "Do good and good will come." And I try to learn as much as I can about faith and religion. I'm a man that believes in prayer. I've had my disagreements with churches and some of the pastors and stuff like that, which is, I think it's perfectly normal. So you're not going to agree. If there is no questioning, there is no faith. But I believe in the power of prayer. And to tell you in your perspective, if this is what the show is about, then you've got that niche.
Yeah.
You got to keep going, because if I was to come into a show and you guys, all you talk about is rated R stuff, I have to be realist that that's the world that we live in, and there's going to be shows that are rated R. If I go into a show and I know that it's faith-based show, then I have to be a realist that there are faith-based shows. I've done everything. I've been to LGBTQ organizations. Whatever I believe, it's my belief, but I have to respect what they believe.
Yeah.
Do I disagree with it? Probably I do, but I have to respect it because I expect them to respect me for believing what I believe.
I love that. That's very beautifully said. I completely agree with the respect thing. I think that's awesome. And you're a true pro because you navigated that tough question very well. Yeah.
I'm ready for politics.
Oh,
I love it.
Wasn't there a JR for president thing on your Instagram that I saw? He's actually really ready for president now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so so let me ask you this, because we like to stay humble around here. You're a pro and we're not, like not even close. So tell me, where can we get better? Just off today, like seeing the way we operate. Maybe one thing, three things. What's the number one thing that we can do? The top three that we can do as a morning show to have a bigger impact.
Well, I did morning show for 6 years, and I bounced up and down from morning to afternoon shows. The way I did my show was different. There was the lead anchor, which would be Matt, and then you got two other people, which would be my co-hosts, and one of them. And I'm not calling either of your co-hosts Matt anything. Okay, so don't get offended. But
wow, I'm out of here.
That one person that was a lot more outspoken and against the grain, and then there was always that person that kind of just, played the part of a fool. And yeah, okay, I'll do it. So there was a balance. There was a woman on our show, which gave us the woman perspective. Yeah. Because we grew and we understood that men think with the brain, women think with their heart. So we needed a heart in that group. I wouldn't be opposed to you having a woman and they can give you the woman's perspective, because what you and I just spoke about, they could probably agree or disagree. And there's an opportunity to touch those topics, which my wife and I have very, very uncomfortable conversations as we get older, Yeah. And it's great to have that perspective from her, because I grew up with 6 boys. How we settled our discussions were with our fists, We would fight it out, and then whoever won, that's the person that was right. It probably wasn't the right way. And now with my wife, it's like I've met the biggest challenge of my life, because obviously I can't fight her, and if I would, she'd probably beat me up. And 2, there's that voice of reason that she tells me. And I got to be, men, we're brutes. We're raw. Yeah. And it comes across like that on a show without us even knowing it. A little bit of background music. I can't hear it, obviously, because I've got an air conditioner back there going, but a little bit of background music would be great, preparation-wise for sound effects, make it more fun. I mean, there's many, many ways of doing it. You guys aren't doing anything bad, because I see your shows and I see the success you're having online. You've got a great opportunity here, guys, because everybody's working from home. Yeah. We don't know how long it's going to be going for. And like I said earlier, I milked the whole bilingual thing. Milk it. You've got a great setup. And I think go for it.
Thank you very much. Thanks. That's awesome. All right, so who wants to be the fool?
I'm in. I'll do it. Yeah, let's go.
I don't really need to ask. Did I, Brian?
You really didn't. I'm gonna say something bad at some point on accident. It's just gonna slip. No, kidding.
Okay, so we've talked a bit about perspective. So I wanted to answer your one question you had for me before we wrap today, and that
we
was
also have one from online.
From online. Okay, so we'll get to our online question here in a second. The question that JR had was, how do you fall in love with auditions, right? Because auditions can be this thing that we dread doing. And
that's the one thing I have a problem with auditions, is that if somebody sends me an audition, I know it has to be done, but I dread it. I dread the auditions. So what you've done castings, I've auditioned for you guys before. What can you tell me as an actor when I go into an audition that can help me just accept it and love it more?
Well, that is a great question. And before we get there, let's do this. It's time now for Brian Sweeney's Shameless Plugs. Shameless Plugs.
See,
We have one sound
We
effect.
got one that's in there. It's great.
I like it.
So Acting is My Day Job is the book that Matt wrote, and you can get that on Amazon. You can get that Walmart, Target. It's all over the place. But Acting is My Day Job goes specifically through some of these things. JR talks about tracking your auditions. It talks about like making the process even a little easier for you, more fun for you. And so highly recommend getting that as a baseline to get started. And then beyond that, once you have that, then even using this field here, you can reach out to with questions, and we're happy to like extend on those things that are foundationally put in the book.
You know, and Brian, I got to give you credit because since you started marketing the book really hard on the show, the sales have doubled.
Hey!
I just sent him a screenshot. Yeah. And we're getting reviews. We're getting great feedback.
Another sound effect.
Yeah, Joey's got the got the sound effects. So I'll answer your question, and also I'll recommend everybody get the book, Acting is My Day Job: 7 Strategies to Market and Make Money as an Actor, which is really a way to organize your life. I had a client of mine who worked at a technology firm, and he gave it to his daughter who was working her way toward an opera career. And she was feeling stuck, and she's like, wow, that book really helped me because it helped me put the business side of things in front of me. So that's what the book's all about. But when it comes to your auditions, you have to, because I can tell you from experience, I had the same feeling toward auditions. I'm like, they get in my way. And it kind of like ego a little bit, you know, I'd be like, I'm on every callback. Just bring me for the callback. They know me. Just either hire me or don't. Like, what's the deal, you know? And so the way you can do it is, I think, if you treat auditions like they're the gig.
Yeah.
So rather than thinking of it like it's an audition for the gig, I go, okay, I got a gig. What kind of work would I put in if I had already landed the role? So I've already landed it. I'm grateful for the fact that I landed it. I show up ready to perform as if I landed it, and then I perform as if I landed it. Then I leave as if I'm already done with the gig. That's over and done with, and I don't think about it again. That's done. And I know, and this is a part of the journal part in the book, but I know whether I gave 110%. So if I did, I can write that down and go, crushed it. Like that my work ethic crushed. Not the audition, but my work ethic. Like I gave my best. And you know, half the time that's not the answer. Half the time it's like, didn't do your best. Like you watched Netflix and you should have been you know, working on your part. But what's amazing about this perspective is you start to look forward to auditions. You do change your perspective on it because you're like, oh, I like gigs. I don't like audition. Okay, well, let's just consider it a gig. That's number one. Number two, obviously, if you're better prepared, you're gonna land more. And number three, imagine this mindset. I work on this with kids, like a lot of our kids actors. I've been doing this for over a decade. I play this game with their heads because they don't know any better yet. Us adults, like, we're already like jaded and we know about money and all that stuff. They don't. So I tell parents, like, you need to not talk to your kids because you make them nervous. Instead, like, this has got to be fun. So imagine the mindset change if you show up to an audition and you've already landed the job. Like your perspective is, I already got it. You know, I'm not trying to prove myself. I already landed the job. I'm just performing what you need to bring your product to life and gift you with, you know, with a performance that's going to help you reach an audience. And that's it. If you think that way, you think from that giving heart, you're going to land a ton of stuff.
It's a great perspective and great mentally way to change that. I'm definitely going to use it when I go out there and audition. When I see you at auditions, I give up, though. I'm like, oh, the Deering's are here. They're going to get it.
See, this is how you know that I've got a teacher's heart, because literally now that we've had this moment, right? You've had one learning moment from me. I would be just as excited if you landed it as if I did. That's what's crazy. And I have no problem giving away advice like that to my like straight up competition, because I'm like, dude, more the merrier. Like there's plenty of work out there in the world. Like I just want to share what I know. But not everybody's like that. A lot of people are like, I'll teach you as long as you're not in my demographic.
Well, hey guys, JR and Matt, I mean, you're both super talented and you work so hard, both of you. And so being able to be in the casting room, you know, thanks to Matt and Phoenix Casting, we've been able to see all the things that happen on the back end. And JR, we got no control. We got no control over the things that happen when inside of the audition room, the way that actors think we do. You know, it's we bring people in, and there are so many, and you probably know this being in the industry. There are so many wild cards that we have just no idea or control over when it comes to client. So like you and Matt walk in, you both have worked your tails off. You both came in, and let's say you're right at that same talent level when you came in, like they're looking and they'll make some decision based on something that had nothing to do with anything you thought it would have to do with. And so something that helped me.
But you still got to put yourself in the top 10.
That's right. Absolutely.
You know, like there's that you have, that the actor has control over the talent part.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So like all you can do is come in and put in all the work, like Matt said, and then just release it, you know? And then that's what helped me a lot. Then the audition becomes fun. It becomes like, oh, I got to go perform today. Like you said, it became the job. It became the thing that you got to do your craft today.
I feel like you're failing right now because you sound so much smarter. You're not like the dumb guy. Like we really got to work on that.
But also, who wants to hang out later? No, I don't even know what my dumb guy's
I
like.
went to the audition, but it was the day before, so then.
Oh, we get that a lot. We get when we have auditions,
so
people show up and they're like, where do I sit? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Tomorrow you sit right here.
It's
Okay.
the most
I've done that.
uncomfortable conversation too, because
I showed up a week after the audition.
That's great.
Oh.
There you
And I
go.
was like, and then the guy's like, well, we already did it a week ago. Plus we've used on everything else. We can't use it again. I was like, okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Okay, so we gotta let JR get out of here, but let's take the online question first before we wrap.
Great. JR, first off, I want you to know that you are very, not to get to your head, very famous on our YouTube right now. Everyone is loving you, man. Breezy absolutely loved what you said, and
Joey's just showing off the
he's
sound
showing
effects
off the sounds now.
Keep it up, Joey. Keep it up.
Breezy loved what you said about men are the brains and women are the heart, and she said that she is going to present that to her hubby. Which is great. But then Angel Gabriel, has reached out to us, and it was about boxing. Were you a boxing host as well? Did you do something in that arena?
You know, I've done ring announcing, and I did it as a job because I would mess around with my kid here, and you know, I can make my voice very deep. Now batting number 42. You know?
That's great.
Whoa.
So the ring announcing thing was kind of a joke, and then I started getting a lot of gigs, and then I had to stop. Like, hey guys, you know, it was more of a favor, and people liked it, and they started booking me for that. So hey, that's another revenue, so I took it.
Nice.
That's so interesting.
So the person on here is a friend of ours. His name's Gabriel Balderrama. So let's do a quick shout out for, if you would say hi to Gabriel for us.
Oh, hey Gabriel, how are you, man?
All right, and here's the deal. He's a general contractor. He's an amazing worksman. And as a matter of fact, this studio would not exist in the state that it is if it wasn't for Gabriel. We call him our Angel Gabriel because there was a time when we got completely just hosed by a contractor and nothing was happening here. My wife and I are all out of money. We put all our chips in the middle of the table, and I'm like, and literally someone stole money from us. So I'm driving by the studio, and I remember looking over at the building and just going like, nobody's there. And I was like, all right, God, well, like, this is up to you at this point because there's nothing I could do. And I went home. And then the next day we meet Angel Gabriel. And it was through a friend who was, you know, hey, I know this guy does drywall. Like, drywall. This guy does everything. And he owns a company. He's amazing. So I know he's on our YouTube right now. If anybody needs, and he's going to kill me because he already has too much work. But if you want somebody who's amazing, you got to reach out to the Angel Gabriel Balderrama. He's excellent at what he does. All right, did we have a question there?
Yeah, and because as you know, he his son is a boxer, and he also does like promotions.
And Gabriel was a boxer too.
I know he's on our YouTube right now.
Like,
Brian.
that's another way we can improve our shows. Not play the show during the show.
Hey, I played the dumb card. Hey!
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and Gabriel's now a promoter.
Yes,
and he owns a promotion, like a boxing promotion company. So he believes in this hard work thing like nobody's business. He sat down with me many times and talked about it. So okay, sorry, get to the question.
So the question was just, and he kind of answered, but it was about being a boxing announcer. How did he sort of get into doing that and being in that world? So did it just, like you said, you were just doing a deep voice and someone's like, hey, try this, like, or like, and I guess going into that, how would somebody else even get in that arena in your opinion?
I'll tell you right now, first off, Gabriel, let me turn the camera here. Back there, I don't know if we're going to go with a pool or an actual studio, an office, but I might end up calling Angel Gabriel here to help me out.
There's nobody better.
Hey.
There's nobody better. Either way you go.
We'll do a I've been doing this character. By the way, I do a lot better work as an actor when I'm in character. This character, because I do a lot of my work. I'm sitting under a deck that I built myself, and I call it Property Vatos. And it's like, I do this, cholo, órale vato. But anyways, that's a different story. I used to put up videos on my Instagram and my YouTube and all that stuff. And my son, my 8-year-old son, when he was 2, he loved fighting. And so we would wrestle around, we're just guys. And I would say, now fighting, weighing 26 pounds, Noah James. And then myself, and his dad and I always lie about my weight, weighing 175 pounds when I was 225. And my friend was a boxing promoter, and she said, hey, I need a ring announcer. And I've seen the videos you do with Noah. Will you do it for me? And I was like, sure, I'll do it. And again, the boxing world is such a small world. And as a kid, I did boxing, I did karate. I respect the sport, and I'm a fan of the athlete. And to be able to go up and announce their name and do whatever they want to be called, it's amazing. It's great because a lot of these people are the names. It's like the red flag. Your name is Jose, the red flag, Benavides. And I'm like, okay, great, I'll call you that. And I say it in the best way as I would love to be introduced. And I always tell other ring announcers, if you were the boxer, how do you want to be introduced? And you don't have to have the deep voice. You don't. I mean, there's very famous ring announcers that don't have a deep voice. They could just hold that note and make them sound like they're the best boxer in the world, fighting for the best organization in the world.
That's so cool. So he got the ring announcer job because he was doing fun ring announcer voices with his son, putting it out there, just as a way to give and then get something just amazing in return. I love that story.
That sounds like Brian getting his personal speaking jobs from TikTok. TikTok.
Yeah, totally. So here's I'm gonna foresee your future here. Okay, I'm looking way into the future, and I'm gonna go. Okay, crystal ball. Probably you're gonna end up doing some more ring voice announcing, and you're probably going to get a pretty good discount on your new studio. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'll bet you're going to be very happy with the ordeal.
By the way, I just found out. I mean, he's already announced a couple times for Gabriel. I just did.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
okay.
I guess like this last event that we just did with Lighthouse.
Yeah,
it was the announcer.
Oh, really?
No way.
I didn't even realize it either. That's
gotta
very
be
funny.
kidding.
Yeah.
Nice.
Seriously?
So maybe you'll be getting paid less. Who knows? I don't know.
No.
We'll see.
All right, JR. It has been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really grateful.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. And, anytime you guys can find me on social media, any advice, I love to get on my soapbox and talk about, just making yourself a better person, a better actor, a better performer for free. I do it for free.
Awesome. So Brian, speaking of social media, you want to shout out JR's social media so people can follow him?
It's time now for Brian Sweeney's Shameless Plugs.
Shameless.
I don't think we can do it twice.
I mean, we can only do it once.
I don't think we can do it twice.
JR, can we do it once or twice?
Yeah, it's probably.
Is there money behind the plug?
No, I mean, no, not yet.
I don't know how much are you paying us. We're not sure.
I mean, I feel like that's a plug though. You're plugging in social media.
No, I know, but I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
but
like
if
with
you've
the
already
long,
hit the button,
and then
though.
now it's taking even longer. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, great. So JR, you can follow him on Twitter, JRCARDENAS TV. On Instagram, it's j.r.cardenas. and then facebook.com/same thing, CARDENASJR. So definitely check him out on social. Like I said, on his Instagram, his first photo says JR for president, which I thought was hilarious. It's on a plate. It's amazing.
Let's go, JR for president. Okay, and so we're going to wrap the show here. And you're right, Gabriel's son is a great boxer, so I don't get beat up. I'm gonna say, what's up, Arturo? Love you, man. Okay, thank you so much for watching. This has been Mornings with Matt. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel. That's huge for us. And share it, please, because it helps us to present this light-driven content to the planet. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thanks for listening to Mornings with Matt. Please like, subscribe, and follow us at Deering Acting Studio to keep up with the latest content. For more information on classes, private lessons, or professional development coaching, visit www.deeringstudio.com. Have a Deering day, everyone.